Although baby showers are I think they're the biggest, you don't want to have children, go to baby showers, you'll be sure you don't want to have children. Those things are dull.
Not everybody knows, and you have to do your own exploration.
It is still, for a woman to say out loud and proudly that she doesn't want to have children, is still met with a lot of judgment. What's the story?
We live in a society where you're supposed to want children.
Yeah.
And that hasn't changed yet.
But while women in a partnership, women are the ones saying that they don't want children while men are. Is that something that you're seeing as well in your practice?
Yeah, so I've been doing this for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
The main thing that has changed over that is it's not that men didn't want children, it's that men were more inclined to leave it up to the woman to decide. Now what I'm seeing is more women are leaning in the no direction and men are saying, no, I want to be a father.
Yeah.
And then couples are trying to sort through, do we stay together? How do we work this out? And I have worked with couples where the relationship had to end over this.
Yeah. So it always cracks me up when I hear men, I friends of mine whose weddings I attend being like, oh yeah, I want 5 kids. And I'm like, good luck with that. But there's a sort of romanticism then around being a father, whereas there is a little bit around being a mother as well. But today motherhood, the negative aspects of motherhood, I think through social media are really well amplified. But I think the operative word that you said is choice, which most of us are conditioned. And in fact, like as we were chatting before the camera started rolling, I knew that I wanted to be a mom. But now that I think about it, I don't know how much of that was conditioning.
But you went with it. And
I'll say 2 kids down.
Right. Are you happy you did that?
I am very happy I did that. I do derive a lot of joy from my children.
I'm in the middle of my homework here.
I do not think it's for everyone.
Right.
And I think it's a massive, it's not even just a time suck.
But you also did it when you were younger.
I did it when I was younger. Yeah, for this, in this day and age, I was 28 when I had my first and 31 when I had my second. So it is relatively young for the generation that we're in, relatively old for previous generations.
Exactly.
A good time, I think, for me. But the one thing that I had is I had support. I made it very clear. Growing up in India, the experience of parenting is it's not awful like it is here, where people go into a deep, dark hole because there is no social support, there's no paid leave. Childcare is prohibitively expensive.
Yeah.
So for me, I was lucky enough to make that a priority. That was a conversation my husband and I had along with the children conversation. We both knew that we wanted children, but I was like, look, I'm gonna have help when I have children. The vacuuming of the house and the raising of the children to me are 2 separate things. So in my view, I outsourced one of those so I could put even more energy into the other bucket. That's why my answer very vehemently is yes. But had I not had that opportunity, I would have been miserable.
When I work with women, they may get to a place where I do want to be a parent. I'm clear, I want to be a mother. But in the decision-making process, it's only under certain conditions. I'm not willing to be a parent and be a single parent, and I'm not willing to do it at all costs. So I'm going to talk to my partner and say, I want to do this under these conditions. I want help with the house, and I want to make sure that our relationship stays solid. So I want an agreement that if things start to go sideways, we get help.
Again, coming back to this idea of romanticism, is the whole experience of motherhood is supposed to be the, oh my God, it's the best thing I've ever done. And those women who are like glowing during their pregnancies. Oh my God, it's not like that at all. I mean, having a baby is the most unglamorous thing you will ever do in your life. You basically poop on on an operating table. Let's just start there, and that sets the tone. Let's talk about the why, because I know that that's sort of at the core of your decision-making process as you lead people through.
Yeah, and I don't have an agenda whether people have children or don't have children. I have an agenda of wanting women and men too to feel that they're doing what's true for them. It's so personal. I'm going to ask them, go back to truly not knowing what you want and stop trying to figure it out. Because you know what you know. You don't have access to what's in your subconscious or unconscious. You need access to that. You have to spend time, most of the time, in understanding what do you want. For example, there are some people who, they are the third child in their family. So to them, 3 feels right.
Yeah.
And it might, but are they trying to work through something that wasn't met for them as a third child by having a third child? Or is it they really want 3?
Yeah. Can you give me 1 or 2 examples where if somebody, you know, at their absolute core why levels down, they said something, and would you actually say to them, you probably shouldn't have children? Is that a situation occurred?
I would never say to someone, you should not have children. Right. What I might say is,
definitely don't have children. Okay.
Right? I would say, yeah. I hope it doesn't work out. No, I would say that if someone says, I want a child because I don't want to feel lonely, I want to feel loved, I want someone to love me. It's like, it's fine if that's your reason. What you need to know, it's likely not going to be met. First of all, it's not a child's responsibility to love you. It's your responsibility to give your child love. It's a one-way relationship for a very long time. So if someone's feeling deprived of love, then that's going to go back to their childhood that they need to sort out.
Like I tell my kids, I'm like, really, everything you do to me, I'm going to live to be 100 and you have to take care of me. But that's not a given. What is the right societal defense, or what is the right kind of like, what do you say? I'll give you an example. For the longest time, like in India, if you're over 25 and you're not married, and at every occasion people will be like, so when are you getting married? Right? And at some point, one of my cousins was just like, well, I'm lesbian. And then they were like, oh, okay. And that was it. That was the end of it.
Right.
Is there something that you, over your 30 years of practice, have heard people use, something that just helps shut down the conversation? Because right now you're sort of looked at if you're defective, as if you're defective.
Oh yeah.
Right, if you're a woman.
And we talk about this, it'll come up where, I'm going to a baby shower.
Right.
And I don't know if I want children, and I just don't want to be asked. And so one, you don't have to go if you don't want to, first of all. It's nobody's business, but you know, part of it is if you have a lot of energy about it, if you're suffering, it's going to be harder. If you're not suffering so much, it'll be easier. Yeah. You know, some people, it's innocent. They're just trying to figure out.
They're well-meaning.
I just wish there was more permission to say, so do you have children? It's like, I don't, and I'm, still sorting that out. And instead of, like, it's like, good for you. Yeah. Because some questions feel benign and some questions feel like an attack. And it can be met with humor and I don't have children. And I noticed you have 2. Right. Why?
Yeah.
Why do you have 2?
That's why do you have children?
Yeah, I don't have children. I'm still starting out, but tell me why you have 2.
That's very
Why have you decided to have?
I'm going to share that with some of my friends.
I wish I knew.
And then you'd be like, why the hell did you have to, if you really want to pay back some of that?
The women I work with, I want them to have no shame and not feel bad about not knowing. I think there's a real advantage to not knowing because it forces you to pause and really look at this where so many people don't look at it. Yeah. You'll hear people say, I've always known I didn't want children. I've always known I wanted children. That's the end of the conversation. And it's just like, well, why? What has driven that? Yeah.
I don't think we thought through how expensive children are. And that's a huge factor, compromising your lifestyle. Again, coming back to the guys who are like, I want 5 kids because he grew up on a farm. Right. And now he lives in the heart of San Francisco. Well, honey, it's going to be a slightly different experience.
There's something to get in touch with and knowing, I do want to be a mom. And for X, Y, and Z reasons, I'm not going to choose that path. And I'm okay with that. But when a decision is made too quickly, or people will say, for climate change, I'm not having children because of population, I'm not having children. And it's a fine reason. I'm not saying that you shouldn't think about that. I just don't want people to think about those things prematurely without
Yeah.
having really looked at
Gone
what
through
do
the whole
you
process.
want,
Yeah.
so that you know why you're making this decision, and it's fine. I mean, these are real issues that have to be looked at.
Yes, absolutely. I think that the point you made about when you're comfortable in your decision, then the judgment and the external factors affect you less, and I think that all ties in. So if you do the work, you make a decision. I'm not, not if you decide not to have children, there's not to say that you'll never feel pangs when you see a new baby or baby.
But you
Although
know
baby
what-
showers are I think they're the biggest. You don't want to have children, go to baby showers. You'll be sure you don't want to have children. Those things are dull.
But sometimes, I'll get a note from someone that says, this is our baby. I'm so happy. It's so hard. So I'm so glad I know why I did it.
So do you find then that one of the concerns, because I think it's a very legitimate one, is that the relationship that is the primary unit, the couple, whether it's same-sex or heterosexual, that relationship changes?
It is one of the top fears. It's good that someone's thinking that because there's no way a child can't not impact a relationship. But it means then that that both people have to talk about, I value our relationship, and I want a child. Anytime humans are in a vulnerable place, any unresolved childhood wounds are going to surface.
Yeah. And I think that's also a really interesting thing that we learned is even though we came from very different backgrounds and, we danced around it, it was so cute, opposites attract. When we were a couple, your upbringing really comes into play when you're bringing up a child.
Yeah.
I have not had the experience of having my biological clock tick at me, or tug at me rather, because I had children at the time. Is it a real experience that in your 40s or whatever the time
there's a
is?
study, a scientific study. It doesn't exist.
Okay.
People will call and say, I haven't had that thing kick in that says I must have children. Does that mean I don't want them?
Right.
And no, it doesn't mean just because you haven't had this yearning or this feeling that says must get pregnant now.
Right.
That doesn't mean then you don't want to be a parent. You may never have that feeling and still really want to be a parent. And you may have that feeling, and it happens on the flip side where women are like, oh God, my body is telling me get pregnant now, and but they don't want to be a mother. So that's just a huge conflict.
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't going to have kids pretty early on. I can remember a story in 6th grade when we were asked what were our goals 10 to 20 years from that point in our lives. And I remember vividly writing down that I wouldn't have children, I would have a career. So I had always put my career first and had set goals to achieve certain things in my career, and knew children wasn't one of them. And when I started dating in my 30s was the more realistic time for me to start finding a life partner. I knew I was going to find a partner that either had children or didn't want children, or it was going to have to be a lengthy conversation of why we wouldn't have kids together.
So yeah, no, I knew I wanted to have kids beginning pretty much when I was a teenager. That's always kind of something that I thought was coming up for me, and I had to figure out throughout the time on how to make that happen. But yeah, no, pretty much I'd say I had a really happy family. My parents were very happy, so it kind of makes sense for me to reproduce that, I guess.
And did you know at that point that you were gay?
Yeah.
Did you figure that it was going to be a little bit more complicated?
Yeah. So it goes hand in hand with that, in the sense that, as I figure that out and my family is very happy and I want to reproduce that setup, I'm realizing that things are kind of different for me.
And today I have an 11-year-old stepdaughter who is amazing, and she's my mini-me. We cook together, we bike together, we share a lot of fun times together, we confide in each other, and we have an amazing relationship. So I kind of have the best of both worlds.
I was worried for my husband. He's really an amazing guy, and he pulls his weights tremendously in the house. And I was worried that I wouldn't be pulling my weight and that relied too much on him. and that, you know, that would be a lot of stress in our relationship, and that would be hard to work out. And overall, like, I'm not perfect. He does do more than I do, but it didn't break us. It actually like strengthened our relationship, I'd say. You're getting tired of this, are you already?
Yes.
Or no, you're having fun?
You're insane. Are you going to? I should maybe.
Yeah, Josh, why don't you talk a little bit? You have to realize that in order to be happy in life, you can't focus on your own shit. You have to focus on other people's shit. And yours is coming every 3 hours, so that's a lot to focus on. Then it's totally fine not to have kids either. I have plenty of friends who have really fulfilling lives with that. So that's how I think about it.
In various conversations with friends with children and without children, people have always questioned or judged me for not wanting to have kids. It's your time, and that might be work time or time for me on the bike or time with friends. Then it's time with you and your partner, and it's time with you and your children. So it's just making sure every bucket is filled to their needs. So if you're going to neglect one of them, then it's not fair to the child to have a child. And if you're going to lead it for somebody else, you're not going to be happy.
The first place to start when someone is, I don't know what to do, where do I start? The first place to start is to stop. The first place to start is to stop trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And stop looking at externals and stop with pros and cons. And stop interviewing people. Just stop. And actually let yourself live in a place of, I don't know, it's sort of like a rhetorical question that I don't know, and try not to answer it. I don't know if I want kids, and try not to answer it. That will create a lot more internal space, and look at things like, what do you want to want? And why? Where do you think that comes from? The first place is to just cut yourself some slack and take a step back and just see what your mind gives you when you're not trying to crunch your forehead and overthink something.
Close your legs if you don't want kids. Kids are not toys. Like, they don't come with a license. It's like or instructions. So you have to be ready when you want it. So
The matters of prepping yourself, if you decide to have kids, just like do a relationship check. Make sure that you have like a really solid relationship. Like, you don't have to be perfect, but you definitely have to have like super amazing communication skills within your relationship, and talk about how you want to invest in your own personal sanity. I'm happier than before I had George, and I was pretty happy before, but like, this is pretty amazing from my perspective. Hi, George.
This is Kaamna from KaamnaLive, and this is your destination for BS-free conversations about all the things you care about. If you liked what you saw, give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, flutter around and see what else we have here, and of course, tell your friends. Cheers.